Hey, John Gilroy here. In a world of confusing federal acronyms today, the king of all acronyms, SBIR. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. In our virtual studio is world-famous Tom Ruff, Principal, Deepwater Point & Associates. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. Thank you for inviting me today.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you did a Google Trends search on the word innovation for the federal government, you'd sure see a hockey stick there, because here in early 2025, I don't think you can get a word edgewise without talking about innovation and improving and efficiency, and that's what we have Tom in the studio today. Tom is a grizzled veteran. He's seen it all, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and he is working now with companies to help them innovate and save money for the federal government. You work for a company called Deepwater Point Associates. Is that Tom?
That's true, John. I work for Deepwater Point, and it is a leader in the market when it comes to assisting companies entering into the marketplace or growing their work share within the marketplace. And it's based upon our expertise. We have over 450 employees, of which 350 are ex-government officials with an average of 32 years experience, CTOs, CIOs, CISOs, admirals, generals, but basically a bed of experience that our clients leverage in order to advance their market share within the federal market.
I'm taking down notes, and there's going to be a baseball game later on today. I'm thinking, you're kind of like baseball scouts. There's 400, been there, played in the big leagues, get hit by a ball, know what's going on, and know where the opportunities are and where the challenges are, and how to adapt. And I think that's what you do, Tom. You take that experience, and people can contact you at Deepwater and ask you more about that. Today, we're going to focus in on this funny open I had, SBIR, and we're going to talk about small business innovation research projects. So started about 30, 40 years ago. What was the whole idea behind it?
Well, it actually started back in 1982 from the Reagan administration, where they were trying to advance the country from a technology perspective. GovSpend now says that this program that started way back when, there was over $6.2 billion of spending per GovSpend, which represented up to 3,200 different awards or grants, I should say, going out to leading edge technologies that would help the government address critical mission needs.
Well, I'm going to hit a raw nerve here, and you can slam down the phone and walk away. But I deal with big companies and I deal with small companies. And many of the small companies say, hey, we're small, we're agile, we can pivot, move, and change quickly, and we come up with good ideas. Now, the bigger companies will say, hey, we're Gilroy and Associates, and we hire from the Ivy League, and we got innovation. So how do you not insult colleagues who work for these big companies when you say, no, innovation really comes from the small company?
Well, I mean, if you take a look at some of the largest cloud providers out there that are participating in the federal marketplace, and you take a look at the number of technology companies or SaaS companies that have been ported over to their platform, you will see hundreds and hundreds of these new technology companies born in the cloud, companies that offer a faster pace of innovation. You'll see a lot of the cloud companies acquire those companies or develop competing technologies once they understand that there truly is a market for this type of technology. So if you're looking for faster innovation, you're going to look at a more nimble, more fluid type of technology startup that has or is in the process of proving out their theory that they can drive more efficiencies, cost savings, and address some critical needs faster by their nimbleness and their ability to not only collaborate with, research institutions or commercial or private sector industries to understand the mission need and to be able to develop those technologies quicker than you can from a large company that has a technical debt. They have a platform that's been built and they need to conform to that in order to get scale. Well, these smaller companies don't have the technical debt and they can innovate a lot faster than a large company. And again, a lot of the larger companies adopt these technologies. either through porting them on their platform or simply acquiring the technology.
So how can a venture capital company and or other like portfolio companies take advantage of this SBIR program?
Well, the VCs who are representing the portfolio companies, many of which that are in the sweet spot of what this nation is looking for, and I can bring them up later. But basically, what the VCs and portfolio companies can do is truly understand the SBIR program. As I mentioned earlier, there were 3,200 awards last year valuing over $6 billion. They need to understand the funding opportunities, i.e., what are the requirements that are coming out of these different agencies that run a SBIR program. They need to understand how the SBIR program can help them commercialize their products, which gives them even more value into the non-federal government marketplaces. Be able to get some insights from large enterprises and be able to collaborate with them, whether it's a research institution within the federal government that's trying to solve mission needs, or a large agency like the U.S. Army that has real needs that need to be addressed immediately, understanding those needs and putting pen to code sheet and coming up with solutions that address it. It also helps validate their solutions. So when working in the SBIR program and receiving awards, and we've got numerous examples, when you receive an award from the federal government, it means something to the VCs, it means something to the commercial marketplace that continues to finance these companies to say, this solution has been validated to a certain extent within the U.S. federal government. And that means a lot to the evaluation and the ability to market their products, not only in the government, but to the commercial marketplace.
Well, Tom, let's pull up to 40,000 feet here. So we know the program's been around for a while. There's a lot of money awarded every year in this. And I think there's three basic phases. What happens is kind of like the early phase of a government expressing a need for something, and then Gilroy and Associates trying to respond to that. Maybe that's a proof of concept. Then it goes into another phase where they test and develop it. And then the next phase is commercial. So three basic phases of SBIR. Is that right?
That's correct. And each one has a progressive funding associated with it. So phase one is really, the government saying, tell me what you got. And how would it help meet a certain challenge that the agency is looking for. So it's all about writing a white paper, 5-page white paper, how you're going to meet that. The government will then select a handful or one company to move forward to meet a challenge that they have. Then they move into incremental funding that will help them round out or prove out their technology. They're in the demonstration phase there, and actually not production, but basically kicking the tire phase of the technology. And then if that advances and if that meets the requirements for the government, then they will help fund in terms of not only improving your product within the government and meeting that need, but also helping them advance that into the commercial world through funding. So it's a win-win across the board. It helps not only the public sector, but also helps the commercial companies be able to understand and take it to the market that's probably much broader, but also ensures that that company is not going to have to live off of federal funding in order to survive. So the SBIR program is great. It's not only to drive and address issues, but it is also to ensure the commercialization of that product so they succeed outside of the federal arena.
Well, we started at 40,000 feet. Now we're going to go down to face in a coffee shop at Annapolis. And I kind of turned to you and go, oh, kind of nice day today. Glad to see it's warming up. Hey, Tom, give me an example of a company that has been successful in this process. Try to understand the government needs and move through the phases carefully. I mean, give me an example.
Yeah, let me give you two examples that are in production right now. The first would be a company, C3AI, who's been in the SBIR program for years. And basically, they're an AI company that actually tracks serial numbers for defective parts for much of the Air Force's planes. So basically, they'll be able to determine a part that's going to fail before it fails. That's critical in terms of wartime operation and being able to make sure that your fleet is available when the call of duty rings. Another one would be an example, and a really nice success story is a company called Palantir, who uh, played in the SBIR program, and now they're a program of record technology within the U.S. Department of Defense, within the Army specifically. And they are a technology, a data analytics company that's driven by AI that's now proven to be very effective in addressing government needs in today's environment.
Yeah, good, good. I was teasing you about Annapolis earlier, and the name of your company you work for is called Deep Water Point and Associates. So, how can you help Gilroy Software out there, or Patrick Sullivan Software, learn more? I mean, what do I give you a call? Do step by step? Do you find out what it's all about? So, how do I even engage with you, Tom?
Well, we do have a website that really drills down on what the SBIR market is and what's in it for the VCs, the portfolio companies, and how Deepwater Point can help you on this journey to get more visibility within, this $6 billion marketplace. We have some very unique technologies. That's not to say that there aren't other companies out there that will help you in the SBIR program, but we've got the most advanced and in-depth program. And part of our secret sauce is a new technology, a SaaS-based AI technology that actually automates the SBIR alerts for opportunities. Basically, it will identify the real requirements that the government's trying to address in a SBIR requirement, and then map that to our portfolio companies' capabilities, saving a tremendous amount of time in terms of what opportunities they should go after and not waste their time on. So we will match that to their requirements and give them a higher P-win, or probability of win. That's the first thing. Nobody else out in the marketplace is doing that. The second thing is, given our government experience, I mentioned 350 subject matter experts, i.e. they work for the government, but we have over 20 that came from the SBIR environment. So they can help with the proposal creation. They can assist with the verbiage and the speak that's required in order for your proposal to get attention. We also do training, whether it's for the VCs or the SBIR companies, or the portfolio companies, in terms of understanding the opportunity, how to approach it. And then also we do market assessments and business justification in terms of their particular technology. What is the total market opportunity, the TAM, total addressable market of that technology in the market? And then finally, we have another capability, and that's our transaction advisory services. And that helps identify technologies for mergers and acquisitions. And in fact, over the last 4 years, the company has helped with up to $33 billion of acquisitions in terms of total value. So we run the full spectrum in terms of what we can do to help these small companies and the VCs to understand what technology companies make a play in the federal government and addressing the national strategic priorities.
I'm reading a book about chip wars, and I'm learning a lot about Taiwan and chain of supply and all kinds of issues and problems. I read as much as I can. I listen to podcasts about AI. But that train's going by real fast. Now I could probably do this myself. Gilroy Software, I could probably look at 5 agencies and maybe spend 30 hours a week. But I'm telling you, Tom, in 5 weeks, it's all going to change. And whoop, there we go. Now we have a new version of 1, 2, 3 AI software, and something's changed and moved. So it's kind of like hitting a moving target. And I don't know. I mean, but you guys are in business of riding the train and knowing where the moving target's going. I mean, the fact is you could probably do it yourself, but boy, you're going to strike out a lot, man. You're not going to single, no doubles for you. Whew.
Well, I'll say this, John. The average startup technology company does not have a whole lot of resources. In order for them to be effective in the federal marketplace, you really need to understand the nuances of the marketplace. You really need a business development team. That's a full-time team. Those companies are they're better off spending money on the technology and the advancement and the key differentiators in the market than they are hiring a very large business development team and waiting for a result in the federal marketplace. The good news is our program aligns with the national priorities, and we can tell you that, you know, right now, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, cyber computing, biotechnology, space technologies, critical materials that are required in the Department of Defense or energy or in transportation. This is more than a full-time job, and that's why we have so many individuals and experts that are focused on key areas, and we can help fast track and put the startups or any company wanting to enter into the federal marketplace. We're going to put them in the HOV lane immediately, as opposed to trying to figure out the market, wasting precious capital, and trying to do it on their own. And, you know, quite honestly, we could do this. You know, our average BD engagement and market assessment, we can do it for the less than the cost of a mid-level inside telesales individual. Meanwhile, we're throwing embedded experience with, you know, an average of 32 years of understanding the agency or agencies that they're representing, and understanding, you know, basically the landmines, the speak, the competitive situation. So basically, we can give the C-suite a true understanding of the market quicker than they can on their own, and use that capital in other areas as opposed to spending and failing.
I'm thinking about baseball today and read articles on here's the top 5 teams that might be in the World Series coming up in 6-8 months here. So I want to give you an opportunity to chime in on not baseball, not football, but give me 4 or 5 general areas of interest. You think that if a company is listening to this and they're involved in aerospace or in cybersecurity, give me 4 or 5 categories you think would really benefit from this SBIR program.
Well, you can't pick up a trade publication or watch a news program without talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's one.
So that is absolutely key. Cybersecurity, our cyber threats continue to be a top priority for this country. If not handled properly, it could take down major federal infrastructure. Let's think about, I'm watching a movie right now called 0 Day, where they took down, you know, the FAA control systems. They locked up the transportation systems. They knocked out major grids. So cybersecurity remains a key area. The bad guys are only getting smart and smarter. It's no longer just a DDoS, but basically infiltration of enterprises that can do critical damage. The Air Force just made a SBIR award to a company called Terra Quantum. You know, we're just getting into the AI, and now we're talking quantum computing, and they're looking at doing long-range testing of resilient networks using quantum technologies. Biotechnology remains very important, and you mentioned, and I'll reinforce, space technologies, not only for space defense, but for satellite technology and exploration, as well as environmental challenges where space can yield some pretty interesting insights for us.
Looking down the road here, 3 or 4 years down the road here, we're at what, $4 billion a year with SBIR. So where do you see it heading in general in the next few years?
Well, first of all, I see the SBIR program remaining. As you can see and read about, a lot of cuts out there right now within the federal government, given the DOGE initiative. The fact of the matter is that the government is looking for new technologies in order to drive efficiencies, bring down costs, but just as important, to make sure we hit the mission need. There is no doubt that this administration wants to retain its technological superiority And that's critical. So how do you do that? You do that by understanding and exploring and doing these quick-paced challenges within programs like SBIR that's going to drive emerging technologies. They're going to have to, and it looks like it's going to remain a stable funding source to drive new innovation. And I think we're going to see that not only Department of Defense, but Homeland Security, and I think we'll see energy get more involved in the SBIR programs. DoD is the lead right now. HHS is right behind it. And then there's energy. And I still see that those are going to be the three areas where research and grant awards are going to be very important in order to keep us in the lead for technology.
So, Tom, you mentioned your website. It's D as in dog, WPAssociates.com, Deepwater Point Associates, and I'll put that link in the show notes so people can contact you or find out more. Maybe just going through the filters at your website and trying to figure out if it's worth pursuing. And if they happen to be in one of these 4 or 5 areas you mentioned, I think it would be a no-brainer not to pursue this any further. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Tom Ruff, Principal, Deepwater Point Associates. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.